I know, yeah, because they usually, yes, right, for one. Yeah, it was so good. I was like, I know, so you watch. Yeah. So I know.
All right. We have a great track record of running late and having them rush in, so we're going to be very good. We're going to start right on time. Just so everybody knows, Jan is not feeling well. She is joining us remotely. She's asked Stuart and I to pinch hit, so we're going to kind of divide and conquer. We've got a few people joining remotely, just so you know, this is being recorded. And we'll get started. We did have a couple of announcements to make to kick off. First of all, you may have seen congratulations to the homeowners on Laird Avenue between 13th East and 15th East who have been awarded a local historic district designation by the City Council on March 5th, which is the 7th local historic district.
Yay!
The Oakcrest area, which is fantastic.
Laird Heights.
LHD. And then on March 26th, the City Council will hold a public hearing for a local historic district designation on Princeton Avenue between 1300 and 1500 East, and we're all encouraged to show our support by writing to the City Council.
Saying I support designation of Princeton Heights as an LHD. So I have to say.
Yeah,
yeah, I can do the next part. Yeah, so our first, I guess, presenter this time is Carol Hallowell. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but she is the executive director of SwitchPoint. 10 years ago, she created an innovative model for reversing poverty and homelessness that emphasizes self-reliance, productivity, accountability, and one-on-one case management services. Since opening her first resource center in St. George in 2014, she now operates new facilities in Tooele, Mill Creek, and Salt Lake, including Utah's first micro shelter that opened this winter downtown Salt Lake. Her facility served hundreds of individuals. Last year, she was awarded the Governor's Spirit of Service Award, and this year will receive the Utah Community Builder Award from the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. So please welcome Carol Hallowell. She's on Zoom and will present, and will present to us now. And I think
hey, thanks for having me. I was hoping I'd make it in person. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can someone remind me how much time I have so I don't put you all to sleep?
Yeah, we got you down for 30 minutes till 7:05.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully you'll let me know if something's not working, okay?
Yep. Yeah, I made you a co-host. You should be able to. Yeah.
Oh,
There we go. Yep.
Let's see here.
But it's just like sometimes.
Let me try one more time, make sure I get the sound okay. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yep, we got it.
Yes, good.
Yeah, we're good. Just realized you may not hear us. We are good to go, so you can.
Okay, so good to go. All right, so I'm just going to show a quick overview video. So I just figured some of you might not know anything about SwitchPoint. So this will just be a quick overview video, and then we'll dive into some good stuff.
There's 1.5 million homeless people right now in the United States. How do we address that? By changing the system that's been not working for the last half century. SwitchPoint's model started really when I met a gentleman named Ray. And Ray was in a wheelchair on the streets of St. George, obviously homeless.
Hang on, I'm going to do it again so it doesn't look fuzzy. There we go.
there's 1.5 million homeless people right now in the United States. How do we address that? By changing the system that's been not working for the last half century. SwitchPoint's model started really when I met a gentleman named Ray. And Ray was in a wheelchair on the streets of St. George, obviously homeless. When I made that decision to turn around and go ask him if he needed help, it launched us into a model of meet someone where they're at, find out why they're homeless, find out what we can do to fix it quickly. And for Ray, it was, hey, I lost my wallet 5 years ago, and now I don't have any ID. Well, we can fix that. Get in the car. So when we were able to take Ray, a gentleman who had been homeless 5 years, get him his ID and get him into housing the same day, that immediately told me, if we just listen and ask questions, we've got something here. A switch point is that mechanism on a train track that with the slightest of a movement, it can take you from Colorado to California. But we don't want to be doing all the work for someone. Our switch point and what we do for someone is to show them the way and help lock arms with them and say, we're doing this with you. We're your biggest cheerleader. What can we do to help you become self-sufficient?
A lot of times people ask, well, how do you make that happen? And SwitchPoint has the secret sauce, so to speak, of case management. And what that looks like is every individual that comes through the doors of SwitchPoint gets their own case manager. They sit down with that individual, they find out what the barriers are that they are experiencing to homelessness, and then they are really and truly the guiding light, the person who believes in them and gives them the resources and the encouragement that they need to get themselves out of their current circumstance and into something better.
SwitchPoint taught me to take care of myself better than I had been doing. They taught me that responsibilities come in small and come in large. And it's the small ones that'll get you if you don't take care of them.
I have witnessed this personally so many times where this model works. It's here to help people, not with a hand out, but with a hand up.
And that boosted my self-image from down to up. And with that, my creativity started to flourish again.
Unfortunately, I have schizophrenia, so I do some steps backwards, but everyone there is always really patient and kind and just allows me to grow as a person. I've gotten a job at SwitchPoint Coffee Company. If it wasn't for SwitchPoint, I could probably feel like I'd been abandoned and I would be struggling to find my way back.
We started a homeless shelter with the help of the city of St. George and rapidly saw that we needed much more than just the shelter. So the next year we added on a food pantry. And then we thought, we need to put people to work and we need to be able to do something with all these donations that we were getting. So we opened up a thrift store. And the momentum from that of being innovative and really looking at what were the gaps in our community, what were the needs that our clients had, we then added on a doggy daycare because a lot of them came with dogs. And then we added on a 24/7 childcare center and an aeroponic garden and another thrift store.
I continue to be really, really impressed because every year they keep adding new things to their program, new things to their agenda, new ways to help people.
We could not do this without the cadre of volunteers who have us in their sights and have our back day after day after day.
We rely on more than 400 volunteers every month. They are a vital part of our team, and they really are the heartbeat of SwitchPoint. Because of the kindness and dedication of our volunteers, it helps us reduce our administrative costs significantly.
It's remarkable that we come together as a community to do this. No one can do this alone.
And to me, that whole buy-in from our community is what makes SwitchPoint so successful in every community that we come into. We got to have the volunteers. We got to have that private-public partnership with our cities and our counties that we go into. As we continued along identifying gaps, it was really evident that we needed to create affordable housing. Again, another great partnership with our city, the city of St. George, was Riverwalk Village, to be able to flow through from the shelter into attainable, affordable housing. And it didn't stop there. Then we thought, what if we could convert hotels into housing? Quick, much cheaper, and we could do a lot of those deeply affordable units that were so desperately needed in our areas. So we started purchasing hotels in Washington County, Salt Lake County, and converting them into deeply affordable studio apartments for our seniors and our veterans. That added on in 1 year almost 400 units, which is incredible when you look at what can you do in your community. It was a buy-in then from our state and county and city leaders.
Before I know it, hey, you got your apartment. And it was like, really? I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't believe it. First time in my life that anything ever went in a good way for me. I went from a homeless guy to I got a nice apartment here.
Pretty soon we thought, model is working so well. Let's share this across the state of Utah. So we launched into Tooele County and did the same thing, repeat. And then Salt Lake County, same thing, repeat.
These people are smart. They are wise. They have lived through so many hardships, and each one of us can learn from those hardships. But if we keep cutting them out of society, our society does not improve without them. Our society is that much less because we don't have their wisdom. We want to wrap our arms around those individuals and bring them back in and show them that they matter, that they can make our society better for the experiences that they have. That's what I love about Switchpoint.
And to say, here was someone that had been in prison, had a felony, family had given up on them, was an addict. And now look at them 4 years later, and they are completely self-sufficient, no welfare dependency, and have been reunited with family. You just can't have a better report card than that.
It is an honor to witness the transformation that happens when somebody comes into Switchpoint and they've been beaten down and they're scared and they don't have a sense of themselves. And what we try to do here is to help them remember who they are and give them opportunities to succeed. What we get to witness as they do that, as they connect to who they are and step into that power. It's just beautiful. It's magical. And it's why we're all here. It's why we keep showing up day after day, because they're worth it.
So this just tells a little bit about our mission, that we really have launched not just to solve homelessness, but really the underlying causes of poverty. And some of that's education, some of that is being able to get back into the workforce, but it's a one-on-one that we really try and approach with our model. And giving them the value that they need. I think that's the biggest success that we have seen is when we say, listen, you are valuable and let's see what some of your skills can do. And we've seen it happen over and over again where our clients have stepped up to the plate and have become amazing individuals. This is just a quick snapshot of what we ended up doing in Harris. This was in Tooele. It was a 1952 school that we renovated and was a partnership with Tooele County Housing Authority. It also had 66 units of new build on the back end of the campus for permanent supportive housing, and we opened that in November. And then this is 2 housing units that we opened up in Salt Lake. So one is the Point Fair Park, which is on North Temple, right by the underpass. And then about 400 yards away is our Point Airport. So between those two, we have about 220 seniors that live there together. And then you'll see the bottom one is in St. George, and then Riverwalk was a LIHTC unit that we opened in 2020. This kind of just gives you an idea of some of our clients. So Judy had been with us. She was on a leave of absence and she'd been approved for workers' comp, but couldn't find, get her check in time. Then pretty soon she didn't have enough income and then was evicted. And she moved in to the shelter, and we were able to get her busy doing some volunteer work. And within about 34 days, we had her back into housing because we realized, hey, you know what? You're a good worker. So we ended up hiring her at our thrift store. I'm going to show another quick video on Chris.
What I like about SwitchPoint is the community and the family that it offers. Once you become a part of it, you feel that closeness that you've got with each other, and you can count on each other to like help you out when you need it. So my experience with SwitchPoint has been like beyond expectation. It's been something so awesome that I've seen personally, and for other people that have been through here, I've seen them like really improve their quality of life, get back on their feet, reach the goals that they set for themselves. Thank you so much for all the help that you've given me, and not just given me, but given me the opportunity to help myself. Help me to reach the goals that I've set for myself as far as being independent and getting back on my feet, overcoming substance abuse, getting back to the workforce, and maintaining a much higher quality of life.
I know I talked about it in the overflow or in our overview video, but we really are proud of our businesses that we've opened up over the last almost 10 years. In September, it'll be our 10-year anniversary, but between our coffee roasting and our aeroponic garden and our childcare and our thrift stores and our doggy daycare, we just continue to look at what are the gaps in the area. We're working on a couple of business ideas in the Salt Lake County area so that those residents that live with us there will have an opportunity to become employed. So we're always on, the thinking of what could we do next to bring in some income, but also to put our residents to work. Let me see if I can unshare again. Stop sharing. Did that work out okay? Whew. I don't know why my videos were a little fuzzy, but oh well, here we are. One thing that a lot of people have asked me, and I've had a lot of conversations with Janet, but is why do we do what we do, and why are we expanding across the state, and we're working on our we have a co-op model that is actually going across the United States, and so I've been into 10 other states since October, so it's been really busy, but we really want to figure out a way to say, how do we as homeless providers hold people accountable? And for me, I raised 4 sons, and it was important to me that they learned how to work, but they also followed our house rules, whatever those might be. But we taught them some values of hard work. And when we translate that into our homeless residents or clients or shelter drop-ins, we see the same thing was happening as I did with my boys that I was raising, is that they needed the structure, they needed the accountability. And so our tagline became, over the last 7 years, accountability, opportunity, but there's accountability. And some providers will say, well, it's too tight of a ship, you're just not giving everybody a chance, and you're not low barrier enough. And I'll argue that point over and over again, is that we have seen personally thousands of clients over the last 10 years, thousands. And we have not seen that to be the case, where someone does not actually step up to the plate. Now, it might take them a couple of times being kicked out, but when they realize that, hey, we still love you and we still have your back, but we want you to be able to become a productive citizen. And they'll come back and they'll say, Miss Carol, I'm sorry, I screwed up last time, or I might have screwed up 7 times, but I'm ready this time. So as long as we keep holding that rope and saying, that's the line, and this is what we expect of you. I had a really nice text yesterday from someone in Salt Lake who had driven past the micro shelters, and she texted me and she says, wow, I'm so impressed because it was quiet and it was clean, and there was no trash, and people weren't hanging around. And this is on if you guys haven't been by there yet, it's on 600 West and like 300 South. And I said, well, that's because there's some accountability, and they can't have friends jumping the fence, and they we're really watching to make sure that there's not drugs being passed through the holes of the fence. But more importantly, how many, my question back was, do you know how many go to work? I said, we've now have almost 80% that are in the micropods doing some kind of work, whether that's we got them a job again because they now have a place to sleep, or because they can get a shower, or have good meals, but they feel safe. And that was the number one thing that we were hearing from people is, I feel safe now. And so now I can get back into what I need to be doing, to become successful. And I think that we've missed the mark, as society. How do we take, something that has come from so, it seems like it makes so much sense. And yet, as we've seen it march across the big cities, starting in the West, you'll just see this chaos, and where you see homelessness taking over, the big cities. So let's talk about Portland or Seattle or San Francisco or San Diego. And now it's just marching across. I was in Las Vegas earlier this week, and it makes me sad because there's not this accountability piece that says to somebody, I'm going to offer you these services, but here's what I expect in return. And when they come up and visit one of our switch point facilities, they'll get the aha moment of, oh, I get it, but I appreciate it. And so I don't know if everyone has that mentality, but certainly it's worked for us as we've expanded our services. But I also feel like it's really hit home with those that have suffered from homelessness. We have had several different types of clients that have come through over the years, and some have been generational. I've seen 4 generations of families in Utah that have come through the shelters. So you're going to have grandparents raising babies, and you've got teenagers who are raising babies, but they've also then been living in a shelter when they were a kid, and so that's all they knew. But once we started teaching them those soft skills and how to show up presentable to work, how to be on time, how to take the smoke breaks when they're allowed and not when every 5 minutes when you felt like it, that's when we really started seeing this shift start to occur. And I see that this is kind of grabbing hold. I just got actually a call today from a group in Denver, and they said, "Hey, we've been seeing what's been happening. Can you come and help us?" And I said, "Well, I got to get through winter first in Salt Lake." But this is something that I think is important, and I see it that communities can grab hold of this and do this on their own, where they just say, "We are going to enforce the laws, and we're going to enforce what we expect from our citizens, and that includes homelessness. But we're also then going to provide them with somewhere to go." So hopefully that gives you maybe an idea of what SwitchPoint is and what we've been about. And I wanted to make sure we took some time to have any questions if people wanted to ask any questions.
So Carol, really quick, can you hear me okay? We've got a shared microphone in the middle of the room, so can you hear me better now?
Yeah, so just repeat the question.
Either one.
Okay. I have a couple questions. It's quite impressive. Where do you get your funding?
All different kinds of ways. We have about 75% of our funding comes from donations and our micro enterprises, and 25% comes from either state or federal pass-through.
I would think state and federal important. How long do people stay in these facilities? How long do they reside with you?
So our average stay in our shelters is less than 30 days, but in our housing facilities, it's permanent. So as long as they're paying their rent, they can stay. We don't anticipate, so you saw a couple of pictures of seniors, that they're ever going to change their amount on their Social Security. Our 2 facilities off of North Temple, our average age there is 74, and the average income is $892. So there's nowhere they're going to go where they can pay $450 a month rent. So most of our housing is permanent.
Thank you.
I had a question. This is just an incredible achievement and accomplishment. What is your background? What brought you to this? And
Well, that's a great question. Well, exercise and sports science, from Oregon State, which is why Switch Point is orange, not green, because I hated the Ducks. But no, I would say that I'm a serial entrepreneur. So over the last 35 years, my husband and I have opened and operated more than 20 different types of businesses. So a lot of business experience, throughout 35 years.
Any other questions for Carol? That was an amazing presentation. I am absolutely blown away by what you've done there. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, here. Thanks for having time. Thank you so much. All right, next we're moving to Detective Fallows. So Detective Fallows, I need to make you a presenter, I believe, very quickly. You.
Yes, can y'all hear me okay?
Yep, we're good.
You have to allow me to show my video as well.
Yeah, I just made you a co-host. I think that should.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, well, good to be here with everyone tonight. I've got a few updates for you on the crime stats, and then we'll give a quick update on Bonneville Elementary incident, and then take any questions. So for those that don't know me, I'm Detective Sam Fallows. I'm the community liaison detective for districts 5, 6, and 7. So one of my jobs is to kind of come to these community council meetings and present on the crime statistics and take any questions and things like that. So we have I kind of talked about it last month, but I think I did, but if I didn't, I want to give a quick update on we do have an updated crime dashboard now on our website. And you can access, it's open to the public under our open data tab on our website, slcpd.com. You can access any of the crime stats for the city, and you could break it down by council district, police division, excuse me, or community council. And so for my meetings, that's where I get my crime stats from, if you guys are interested in looking those up later. And that's what I report on. So before we updated our website, they were having a third party do all the crime statistics and gather everything for us and put it on a website. And so I was able to see all the part 1 and part 2 crimes. Right now, currently with the new website, we brought everything in-house to the police department. And so we don't have all the part 1 and part 2 crimes up yet. They're working on getting that squared away. But right now, this launched in February. And so right now, we've just got violent and property crime offenses that are up right now. So that's what I'll report on today. For Yellcrest, we're looking at February 2024. And what we had reported to us, we only had, for all the crime types that I can see, we only had 1 motor vehicle theft reported. And so when we're looking at that, it is a good reminder to make sure that when we, if you are warming up your vehicle or something like that in the morning, to just make sure that you use the auto start feature, or that you're with the vehicle if the key is going to be in it. And make sure that we're not leaving any extra keys or extra fobs in our vehicles, anything like that. Those are all good ways to have our stuff get taken. And so we want to make sure we're taking those precautions. For this time last year, February last year, we had 7 total crimes reported to us. So we're down a little bit this year. That is kind of the trend across the city, actually, is we've been down across the city from last year and from the last couple of years. So that is good to see. But I do think just looking at these numbers is probably not super accurate for the neighborhood. So I would just, again, one thing I like to kind of push in all of my council meetings is, if you're having an issue, like if you get something stolen or something minor like that, and you feel like it's not too big of a deal, please still report it, because I can utilize those statistics, those stats, and I can direct resources to the area. For instance, so let's say we're getting a lot of vehicle burglaries. I know that happened. We had a couple break-ins last week, or in the last couple weeks, to cars, and they were kind of some smash and grab type issues. So, and those did get reported. So thank you very much on that. But just, it's a good reminder, like if we get it reported, I can take those statistics and I can take that to my boss and I can say, hey, I can show that in the Yellcrest neighborhood or in this specific area, we've had a lot of break-ins in vehicles, or we've had a lot of burglaries or whatever. And I can put up like police cameras, or I can work with our detective units to do operations. Like, for instance, if there's a lot of bike thefts going on, then I can work with our property crimes detectives to do a bike theft operation, where they can, put out a bait bike and make arrests that way. So, but I I can't really do that unless I have the numbers to back me up. So, if you're taking a sec to put it on like next door or something like that to let all your neighbors know that, hey, this happened, please just take one more minute. And if it's something where you don't have any suspect information and there's no major follow-up information, you can do an online report, slcpd.com, and you can just do it under, whatever it might be. If it's a vandalism, if they broke into your car, you can do it under vehicle burglary. There's a slew of different crimes that you can do under there. So that helps me though, because it still counts as a statistic for the neighborhood. So that helps me be able to drive resources when we need to. So just be cognizant of that. Is there any questions on crime stats or things going on in the neighborhood before I give the update for Bonneville?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay, no worries.
Do you catch the people who break into the cars? Ask him.
Question
Do we
was,
catch-
what do you do if you catch them? Like, do you ever catch the people who are breaking into cars? And if so, what happens?
Yeah, we do sometimes. The biggest way to help us do that is because sometimes those things happen so fast that, like, literally by the time you even process what's happening, like I don't know, let's say you're sleeping, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear your window smash in your car, you wake up and you look out, they're already halfway down the street with whatever property they took. So on those, like, honestly, most likely we're not going to catch a suspect. But if you call it in and they're going to different neighborhoods or different streets all within the same neighborhood, then yes, we've caught them that way too, where people like call it in immediately, like, hey, my car got broken into 5 minutes ago, and we are able to get in the area quicker, and then we can sometimes catch them on other streets, things like that, doing, continuing the vehicle, breaking into cars. That's one way. But another way too is just if you're alert and you see something that just seems off, again, we're looking for actions, right? If people are looking into car windows, going from car to car to car, or checking door handles, that's an obvious one. But things like that, if the quicker you call those in, the quicker, the quicker they'll get responded to, and the quicker the chance you might be able to catch the suspect. So it is a good question. I don't think, I would say, unfortunately, a lot of the times people don't hear their vehicle getting broken into. So they call us later on in the morning, when they wake up, and, there'll be like 3, 4, 5 cars broken into in a neighborhood because they went through and broke into some cars. So on those ones, we generally don't have a lot of follow information. Sometimes we do though. If people get video and things like that, we can put it out to the county, to all different police departments, and say, hey, does anybody recognize this suspect? So we can at times put a case together, but we definitely, if it's not happening, if we're not getting a call very quick to when it's happening, then it is less likely we're going to be able to catch someone on them. But that's a good question. And so on that, actually, sorry, my mind's kind of all over the place tonight. A good thing with that too, and just some minor things you can do to help mitigate those problems, is just light up your house at night as much as you can. And I personally do not think you should use the motion lights. I think you should use lights that are on all the time. Because again, these smash and grabs, like if you're ever able to see the videos of them, they're very fast. They take maybe 10 to 15 seconds, if that. And, really what they're looking for, they're going from car to car and they're looking for like a purse or a wallet or a key fob left so they can steal the car, or anything they think is valuable at all. They're going to smash your window. There's little tools you can buy that can smash your window without any force whatsoever. The only sound it's really going to make is just the glass breaking, which, if you're groggy and half asleep, you might even think like, did I hear that? Like, nah, like it's so fast. So if you can light up your house at night or wherever your vehicles are parked and keep those lights on constantly, I'm not saying it's perfect and it's going to be 100%, a fail, but it will help mitigate the problems because people who commit crimes don't like to do it under light because they feel like they're going to get caught. So they'll just move on to somewhere where it's darker. So I strongly suggest turning on your lights at night and keeping them on at all times during the night. Not motion, but like on. And again, sometimes the motion can scare people away, but I've seen lots of times where they just do it anyway. So they targeted the house because it was dark when they first went up there and they were already there. So they just committed the crime. So the idea behind lighting it is that hopefully they see your house lit up and they just don't go there because it's lit up. They decide to go somewhere else. So those are small things that can help. Obviously taking anything of value out of our vehicles. If you have a garage that you can put your vehicle in, obviously that will help tremendously. Those kinds of things can all help mitigate that. And again, if we're having a major issue and I have a lot of reports of thefts and things like that, I can put up a police camera that has flashing red lights in a neighborhood. I can do things like that. So that can help me with that. Any other questions on any of that stuff?
I have a question. I actually used to live at a house that just got hit. For 13 years I lived there. And I can tell you, we got robbed in that house constantly, our cars, to where, and I'm curious your thought on this. My wife's theory was that if she locked her car, they were gonna break a window. And I will say her window never got broken again. Mine did because I would lock my car. But what's your thought on that whole thing, whether you should lock your car or not? Both just anything value in the car, so.
Yeah, I do, depending on what you have of value in the vehicle, I guess, for sure. It's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, because you're not wrong. Like if the vehicle's locked, I think start by taking everything out of value. Because generally they're going car to car and just looking real quick to see if there's anything in there. Because they don't necessarily want to give away just like smash a random window and then look in. It happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but what I'm saying is generally they don't want to give away their position, what they're doing in the neighborhood, have someone hear it and possibly call the police. They're trying to get the most amount of property that they can without getting caught. So they're usually looking in first and trying the door handle first, right? So the first step would be like try to mitigate anything that even looks of value in your vehicle. The other side, I guess I would leave it up to your best judgment. It is true. Like if they're going to break a window and they try your door handle first, then hopefully they won't break the window and it won't cost you $200 or I don't even know how much it costs now, probably $300 or $400 to fix a window. So I guess I generally would tell people to lock their cars, but you're not wrong. And I've heard that from multiple people like, well, I didn't have my vehicle locked and nothing got taken, but my window didn't get smashed. Luckily, my door was open when I woke up or something like that. And I saw they rummaged through my car, but at least my window wasn't broken. So I would still say lock your vehicle, but the biggest thing is try and take anything of value out of it so that you're not making it an easy target. Start with that and and the lighting. Are you the one that sent the email earlier?
I am, and I think you're right about the lighting too. I think that was why, and it wasn't just our house, obviously, there's nothing magic about that home, but that area is particularly dark.
Yeah.
And I think brighter porch lights would probably go a long way.
Yeah, for sure. That's what made me think of it for sure. That email earlier. So yeah. Any other questions or anything else?
There's a street light, but it's across the street. I mean, I remember when we moved in, my wife's saying it's extra dark right here for some reason. I think it's because of the sycamores are so big. They block a lot of the light that would come from those. And so it is definitely a dark, and I think it's really quick access to Foothill and Sunnyside.
Yeah, that's why I
They
say.
just go bing, bing, bing right
These, deflectors you can put inside the street lights that actually force the light down because we have tall trees is very useful. I think it's a project that our community neighborhood council should take up. It also is better for all the birds not to have extraneous light into the skylight. So we should have lights that face downward, and that puts the light where criminals are seen.
Not sure. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but the comment was about reflectors or deflectors that focus the light down and the availability of those to put the light where it's needed.
Yeah, I did hear that. It's something that like the streets can look at doing. Generally, the lights that they put in, the newer one, the older ones are kind of hard because they're not they're not as good as like the new ones. The new ones are like LED and they face down, like she was saying, and they they're more efficient.
Put a deflector in, it's a cone. I think it's something we should look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I still think that there's a lot of value to turning on your lights at your home. Street lights are fine and dandy, but they do not light up your yard unless you have one maybe right in your, in front of your house. But even that, you're trying to make yourself you're trying to deter it, right? And so I do think there's still value in turning on porch light, your garage lights, the outdoor ones if you have them, or your front, the front area lights that you have. And I just get the bulbs that have like you can set the timers on them. They're like smart bulbs, and I just set all the timers so I never have to worry about turning them off or turning them on. But I think that's a great idea as well for the reflectors to make the light reflect a little bit better where it should, and help, shine more light down instead of up or out. Yeah, it's a good point.
Is there anything on the Bonneville Elementary case?
Yeah, so I gave a small update last time. Last time they had, the update I gave was that they had suspect information, that they were putting together the case. So for this, I spoke to the detective today. They have screened all the charges with the DA's office, which basically means that they put the whole entire case together. That means they have the suspects, the videos, they have everything they need. They've taken it and they've given it to the DA to formally get the charges filed. So on our end for the police department, this is the last step. The only other thing that might change is like the DA could send it back and say, hey, we need you to give us, excuse me, my goodness. We need you to give us a little bit more, a witness statement or something like that. But outside of that, essentially the investigation is done. The charges are screened. And so we're just waiting. And he actually checked today to make sure that nothing has come back in. It hasn't, but we're just waiting for the DA to come back with the official charges screened. So any questions on that? There's not a ton I can release, but I'll try and answer if I can.
Can you answer, I think there was a lot of presumption or assumption that it was probably a younger group of people that were involved. Is that anything you can share, like middle school?
Yeah, there's not a ton I could share on that, but I'd say that's probably an accurate assumption.
Okay.
That way. Yeah. I can't right now, I can't specifically share like what charges were being screened. I mean, other than so there's an obvious of like vandalism in those ones, but I don't want to give any, because again, these are screened. So the DA could take it and say, we'll file this charge and this charge, but not this charge. So I don't want to give any finalized things, but like vandalism, that kind of stuff was all screened with the DA. So, and I can give another update when we do get, if I'm able to, I'll have to check with the detective, but when the charges are formally charged, I can try and see if we're able to give another update on like what was specifically charged and things like that, if you guys are curious to know those things. But right now, and just so you understand, that's a good thing because this took a lot of joint effort between like the school, the department, the community, not only to like make people feel safer at that school, but like to bring together all these pieces that we needed to file a case. So we really appreciate the help of the community in making that happen, and then the cooperation of the school, and not that they would have any reason not to cooperate, but just all the help that they gave us to be able to make that happen. So, and I'm super proud of our detectives and the hard work they put into the case to get it to a point where they can screen the charges. And unfortunately, we don't get that with every hate crime that we investigate, right? Sometimes we're not able to put together the suspect info and get some kind of closure there. So I really appreciate the community and just all the hard work that was put into it. So any other questions for me in general or anything like that?
I think we're good.
All righty. Well, thank you all. Yep.
See you in a month.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anna is up next. Yep.
Thanks.
And I'm going to try and highlight her. What we're seeing. Yeah. All right.
There's so many of me. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah from the mayor's office. I hurt my knee, which is why I have my little tiny Tim with me. I have a couple of updates. Councilmember Dugan, first, he wasn't able to be here today. I believe he's out of town for the National League of Cities Conference with a few other council members. And so he actually texted me a couple of things to chat about. And then Josh is here from the council office for any questions or comments on that. So let's see. Councilmember Dugan says that he will keep you posted on the next steps and dates for the University of Utah baseball stadium as soon as he hears. Next, the consultant for the Donner Park project was hired. That was one of the parks in District 6 that was selected to receive funding from the GEO bond. So that consultant was hired, and they should have results and ideas from the community survey in the coming months. The annual budget discussion will start in May, and city departments are currently putting together their proposals now. So just on the horizon for a chance to engage with budget discussions. Let's see, the 13th South and Foothill rezone request and development plans are concerning Tim, and he's still working on it. And then just as a repeat of Detective Follows, Councilmember Dugan says to please report crimes through the proper channels, not next door. And then he also said that the landscaping ordinance amendments passed. So if you have questions on that, let me know. That really was just to provide some clarity in what xeriscaping your lawn might look like, or your park strip specifically. We obviously want to save water in the city, but that doesn't necessarily mean ripping out all of your plants and replacing it with rocks is the best idea. So we want to make sure that we're of course preserving as many trees as possible, and just some clarity, because it was a bit confusing the way it was written before. So if you're looking into making changes with your landscaping or your park strip,
What percent green do you guys have?
it's 30%, so
That's right.
a third. And tree canopy is now included in that, which makes sense. Okay, if anyone has any questions for that, Josh is here, but I will jump into my updates now. First, my District 6 office hours will be on Monday, April 1st. So coming up in a couple weeks at Caputo's in 15th and 15th from noon to 2. So it's a great time for lunch and a sandwich and a time to chat. Next, just giving all of my District 6 councils a heads up about 2100 South construction. I know it's not super close, but it's certainly in our backyard. And we, I feel like I used 21st a good amount, but it did begin last week. The contractor was selected pretty quickly, and so it began sooner than we were anticipating, but ultimately that's a good thing because it just gives us more time to hopefully get ahead of schedule. This construction will go for the next 2 years. But for this year, we're focusing on the 9th East to 13th East section. And then next year would be 9th East down to 7th East. So if any of you are, well, I would say if you use 21st as a pass through, if you're going to Costco or going to the county building, don't take I-80, take 13th, take Sunnyside, whatever you got to do. But of course, at the same time, if you're looking for a place to eat or need to buy a birthday gift for a friend, please go support our Sugar House local businesses. I mean, we have so many great local businesses to support in District 6 as well. But this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we want to show our support for Sugar House. Maybe plan a few extra minutes just to make sure you're okay to deal with traffic and parking. But there are 7,000 parking spots available in Sugar House. I know it doesn't always feel that way sometimes. But the Sugar House Chamber has a really excellent parking map on their website where you can kind of see where all those spots are located. I know that a lot of businesses are being super supportive. The new owners of Fiddler's Elbow kind of opened up their parking lot for people to use it publicly, which is great. So
in the construction for that, 300 or maybe 276 feet tall Wells Fargo building. So that's
yeah, that's definitely a variable. I mean, that still has to go through the planning commission and then council, and then who knows when that construction, I mean, if it even passes, when that construction would start.
What's the story on that? So have they reduced the height on that or so?
Yes, it's been reduced to, I believe, around 210 feet in the proposal.
Okay.
But it's still just in the early stages of being reviewed by the planning department or division. And then it's yet to be scheduled to go to the planning commission. So there's still lots of opportunities to engage on that issue. For those of you who don't know, that's the Wells Fargo parcel on the corner of 11th East and 2100 South. Wells Fargo moved locations. They're just on the other side of Highland Drive now. And it was purchased by a developer called Harbor Bay, and they are proposing a 210-foot building there, which is around 21 stories. Currently, Sugar House Business District is zoned at like a 10-foot, I'm sorry, a 10-story building, which is 110 feet. So the ones on that 11th East 21st intersection are 6 stories. The building that's currently being built at the old 24-hour fitness site is going to be 10 stories. So that is in the process of becoming the tallest building in Sugar House, but this proposal is obviously significantly taller than 10 stories. So there's going to be plenty of chances to engage on that if y'all want to submit comments to the Planning Commission or to the City Council as that moves through the process. But yeah, back to 21st South construction. If you go through 21st, or if you are experiencing any barriers or issues, there's lots of different channels to get that information to. You can of course reach out to me, but we also have excellent consultants working on this project where you can email 2100southslc@gmail.com. So that's 2100southslc@gmail.com. There's also a hotline number I can give you if you're interested, 801-406-1868. If you see issues, call and report them. We try to have so many people on the ground, eyes out on this project, and the contractors are obviously super involved, but we definitely rely on residents to let us know what issues they're experiencing.
Yeah, but I thought there was going to be maximum effort to keep the 1300 East to I-80. You know, that intersection being open so people could access. Is that true?
Yes, yeah, that's totally open. Some of the remaining traffic diversion there is still from the sewer line that was being replaced last year. Some of you may be saying 2100 South construction already started, and you're not wrong. There's been construction there for a long time because they were replacing the sewer pipe that runs along 21st, but they are just wrapping that up in that 13th East section. And once they're done, they'll move up closer to 21st East. So they'll be out of the hair. And yeah, so if anyone has questions about that, let me know. It pays to be the District 6 and 7 liaison because I feel like we share a lot of backyard space, I guess. So. Okay, next, last week, Mayor Mendenhall announced a new Salt Lake City Consumer Protection Portal, which is really exciting for residents to submit complaints or issues that you're experiencing, maybe with predatory business practices or scams. This is actually living in the city's housing stability division, specifically because renters are consumers. They are paying for a service, and if they are being scammed or dealing with really difficult landlords, this is one way that the mayor is trying to approach that problem. So obviously, if you're not a renter, you can still use it for any issues that you're experiencing with businesses. But that's on the city's website at slc.gov/housing stability/consumer protection. I know that's a really long URL, so I can send it out maybe to Jan and she can distribute it to folks when she's feeling better. Let's see. Oh, okay. I wanted to take a second to talk about streetlights, only because I've heard from a couple of Yellcrest residents this past month with questions about streetlights. So you may already know this. I'm sure that Lynn does. Yellcrest has a number of these really beautiful, tall, gray.
Those are the city ones.
Yes, correct. So these would be recognizable to you as the streetlights in the park strips in Yellcrest, and they are beautiful. Old, they're also really delicate, and they are owned by the city. So these green ones with kind of the cement base, these are other park strips lights that you'll see throughout the city, but they are privately owned. So they are owned by the homeowner, the property owner, and maintained by those property owners as well. So it's their responsibility to replace the light bulbs, even replace these big glass domes if they break. There are outlets on these lights, so if folks want to, they can plug in their Christmas lights and decorate this post. I mean, they can do it for whatever holiday all year round. The difference with the lights in the Yellcrest neighborhood is that they are owned by the city. They are very beautiful, but also very delicate, and it is unsafe to try to replace the bulbs or the domes. Putting a ladder up against them can even like shift the whole light. There's been issues and like put you at risk of electrocution, which is obviously something we want to avoid as much as possible. Unfortunately, we found out that some residents took it upon themselves to put outlets into these city-owned lights, which is frowned upon, as it would be with putting outlets into any publicly owned asset. But so, and who knows at what point that happened, and I don't know how many lights that happened to. Yes, I think these were put in the 30s around. Yeah, so these are, I mean, historic, beautiful lights. And there are now folks who are using the light from these light posts to light up their Christmas lights or holiday lights. And Rocky Mountain Power alerted the city of this, saying, you know, we're providing you with the power for these publicly owned lights. But if residents are siphoning that power for other uses, it just puts us at risk with our contract with Rocky Mountain Power, which we don't want to do because we get a good rate from them and we want to have a good relationship with them. So a flyer went out to the residents who have these lights in front of their homes specifically, just letting them know it's not appropriate to use the light from these city-owned streetlights for decorations. And I just want to clarify that ribbons, garlands, non-electric decorations are totally fine. I think some people were really sad to hear that they couldn't decorate them at all. And I just want to clarify that that's not true. So if you hear from your neighbors saying they're sad that they can't decorate their lights, they still can. They just can't use the electricity from these lights. So nothing that's lighting up or spinning or whatever, but ribbons, greenery, anything else, totally fine. So if you,
Those are mainly on Yale Avenue, Herbert.
yeah, there's definitely someone Laird. Yeah, and they're on, yeah. So, if anybody else has questions, let me know. I know it's kind of confusing.
So
Yeah.
on the privately owned lights, we had them put on our street maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
Right? And so it was the owner's property that put on. So there are some very cheap people on my block who didn't want to put the lights on their side of the street. So there's one house that has the lights, and then 5 houses who don't have lights. My side of the street, we all bought the lights. Is it possible for people now to go back and have one installed if they pay for it?
It is, yes.
Cost sharing, is it still cost sharing?
No,
I believe it's privately funded now, so by the homeowners. Off the top of my head, I think it has to be a certain number of homeowners on the block, right? It's not just one by one. But I can double check on that for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, there.
So if it was a group,
House has one in front.
yeah,
Every other,
No,
on our streets.
no, it's not, but our side of the street has one for each of the areas.
okay.
Across the street, there are 4 houses that don't, and it just looks so weird, it's just one light on our street on that side.
Yeah.
So I kind of approached them and said, would you like to buy a light and put it in front of your house? So what is the cost on those, do you know?
I don't know the exact cost off the top of my head. I think it changes year to year. But I can give you the phone number for the private lighting manager if you'd like. His name's Dave Pearson. He's very helpful.
Yeah.
And this is actually the number you would call to if you had a city-owned light in front of your house and needed the light bulb replaced.
And there's one neighbor on our street around the corner who does change our light bulbs. When he sees the light bulbs out.
Oh, that's
He
nice.
changes them, and then he does put the Christmas lights on our.
That's great. Privately owned, totally
Privately owned,
kosher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have those others.
Okay.
It's just so weird to drive down
Dave
our
Pearson.
street and find one light here and then 4 on this side.
Yeah, I get that.
And then,
I can give you this number now if you're interested, or I can email it to you, whatever you prefer.
Just the old replace the original ones. Those are like $5,000-6,000 just for that, and it was full.
Yeah.
And they quit making them during COVID, so they repaired them, had to wait to get.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So that's why we just ask that you let the city replace those bulbs on those city-owned ones. They're a little bit more delicate. Okay, I'll give you that number now. Sorry, I just want to make sure you.
Or I can.
now, is this company Black and McDonald?
Yes, they're hired.
Person that you're giving Marguerite.
No, this company is the city's private lighting manager. And so when people are interested in putting in the green lights, he's the one that manages that. And when people need maintenance on their city-owned, pretty grayish silver lights, he does that maintenance.
So can you put the green lights in on a street that has all gray lights?
I am not sure, probably, because these gray lights are not going in anymore. They are historic, so I think yes, maybe David would have something to say about them being mixed, but I'm sure if it's like the next block up, I think that would be. But
if someone just wants to supplement the light for brighter light on the street.
yeah, this, that would be the best question for Dave. So I'll give you his phone number, Dave Pearson. It's 801
Yeah.
483 738.
In city private, those are the private lights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And you call that number to find out how much it would cost to put one in.
Yep.
And you said his name is Dave.
Dave Pearson,
Pearson, Pearson.
SON. Yep. Perfect. And if anyone has questions for me on that, just let me know. I know, sorry, really in the weeds on streetlights. Okay, moving on. I just have two more things. The city, as we do most years, we're doing an Earth Day service project on Saturday, April 20th. There's going to be a lot of projects along the Jordan River and at different green space throughout the city. So there are some flyers over here if you want an opportunity to serve. Last year we had like over 1,000 people come volunteer, so it was great. It's a really fun day. And then lastly, I actually just got an email this afternoon from Rice Eccles Stadium, and maybe some of you got the same email. They are doing a concert on April 13th from 2 p.m. to midnight. It sounds like there's going to be some traffic control matters, parking matters, and then of course noise. I just printed out copies of that email. There's about 10 over there. So feel free to grab one if you didn't get it. And there's a phone number on there for Rice Eccles staff to call if you have questions or concerns.
What day was it?
April 13th.
So it's parking in the neighborhoods.
Potentially, I mean, they did say that tickets are still available, so who knows how many people are actually going. I don't know if it is after their spring football game, which is also on the 13th. So depending on the turnout for that, it could bleed into the neighborhoods like a normal football game, but I go to normal football games and I'm not going to spring football games, so we'll see.
But I just,
Yeah. Any other questions for me? Great, thanks everyone.
How do you feel very
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I think that's, unless anyone has questions for Dan's, the councilman here, council representative here, then then we'll just conclude it.
That's right.
Yeah, so
Great.
7:30, great.
A new record.
Yeah. Yeah, great, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.